I thought today we would discuss about reincarnation and karma. A lot of understanding about reincarnation has to do with that we come back and we live lives just because we have karma, bad karma. So, or we have good karma. And this all comes about because of our concept of hell and sin and what we think of damnation or whatever it is that we think is that life is about. Like when you die, do you go to hell or do you go to heaven? So in this path, the journey of soul is one of where it's unfolding and growing into itself as being able both to experience more life, but also to become greater within itself and to have that concept or understanding, meaning this. Each one of us as a piece of the Creator has a destiny to become like the Creator. And part of how we become part of the Creator is through how we live life. So one of the reasons that we reincarnate is we reincarnate because, one, there's a learning process that we're learning about, and the learning process that we're learning is how to become ourselves. So we aren't sure what that means, so we come in and we live many different lives, both on earth and in other worlds, and we create destinies. So these destinies we create, we'll call them karma. So the idea that if you do something bad, you got to come back and fix it. Sometimes we make mistakes, and we make mistakes because that's part of our growth. And we're supposed to make mistakes, and we're supposed to fall, and we're supposed to learn to get up. And many of the things that we do that don't seem to be right are usually not right because of some doctrine or what someone has decided or created that they think is right or wrong or good or bad. But they may not necessarily be. But the soul goes through these experiences, and it sometimes accepts what the doctrine is, and then it feels obligated to come back and redo it till it gets it right, and doesn't know that it doesn't always have to do that. A lot of times we can just see what we've done, resolve the situation, and then learn how to detach ourselves from the situation. So I'm saying that a lot of times we look at karma as cause and effect.
Can you give like an example of how that could work?
Cause and effect?
Yeah, you know how you fix it and then
Sure.
resolve it.
Let's say
get into
that.
it?
Sure. Let's say like you stole something, and then you went and after you stole it, you realized that you didn't feel good about what you stole, and maybe you couldn't even give it back to the person that you stole it from, or just wasn't available. So you could go around and feel guilty about what you did, or you could say, well, I stole, I'm not going to do that anymore, And maybe I'll find a way to pass on, or if someone steals from me, maybe I can excuse that or guide them or not hold it against them because I realize that I didn't know. So when you do that, you let go of it, then you no longer have an attachment to the idea. It isn't always the object, like if you stole something, it's really the concept of what stealing is. As an example, one of the things I learned was that when someone steals, they deny themselves the opportunity to realize it on their own, to earn it themselves, and where it was theirs because they did what was necessary themselves to get it. Some people steal because they're too lazy to stand on their own 2 feet, so they create a karma, but that's a karma that they're willingly bound to. And they're bound to that karma because they identify with it as stealing. And they identify with it, well, that's what I do, or if I didn't get caught, I'm not going to have to pay. But let's say that the greater truth is that we learn that stealing is not the right thing to do because it denies us our own growth, our own personal, self-reliance. And soul, learning to grow and unfold, is always learning how to stand on its own, carry its own, and be responsible for all of its actions or lack of actions.
You mentioned guilt. Mm-hmm. Could you, can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, guilt is like an abdication of being responsible. So what I'm saying is that oftentimes people will have this emotional feeling of guilt, and well, I feel guilty, so that justifies, and it kind of balances out, and they think they don't have to be responsible for what they did. Or, sometimes we feel guilty because we're taught to think a certain way, and then we're told, well, you did this and that's bad, you should be ashamed of yourself, you should feel guilty, and then the person believes that, and they accept that guilt. And so they also accept whatever it is that goes along with it. Those are things that are readily, easily karma. But if someone made a mistake or they did something and they realized what they did and they took responsibility for it, then they can remove themselves from being the effect of that situation, and there's no guilt involved because they took responsibility and you did it and you fixed it. But most importantly, you learn not to do it again. You decided this wasn't what you wanted.
Okay, but if you can't fix it, if it's something that can't be, so you steal something and you can't give it back.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you steal something...
But you know it was wrong, and you don't do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you get rid of what you've done?
Well, first of all, so much of what people do is they attach themselves to the situation. They say, I stole something and now I can't pay it back and I'm going to have to carry this burden. So, but if you looked at it, you say, I stole something and I did and I realized it wasn't right and I don't do it anymore. And then opportunities will come into your life where you'll be able to do what we call forgive. And forgiving is the act of giving of oneself, or giving or allowing the giving of life of another. So if someone stole from you, you can say, well, I've stolen stuff before, I know what it's like. I'm not going to attach myself to it, and I'm going to give that person, I'm going to let go of it, and consider that a balance. When we do stuff like that, we find that we're no longer attached. And it's the attachment to the situation that creates the bond. The reason we reincarnate often is because of a bond when we reincarnate for the satisfaction of a debt. So, but we also reincarnate because we're growing, and it takes more than one lifetime to understand human nature. So we may have many lifetimes here where we learn to be a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, where we learn to be a bum, where we could be, just about anything. And each one of the things that we experience in life, we teach us something. What really happens is when you live a life and the life is over with, you're able to look back on the life, and if you have a freedom within yourself that you can see the life you lived and take responsibility for the actions, then you might say, well, I've learned it, or I still haven't learned it, but I see that I need to learn it. Then you'll choose a life or develop a life that you can come back and learn that. So many people are here, and many people come in, and they have already decided the life that they're going to live. What happens is that we choose a life usually with the same group of people that we've lived many times before. And we do this because this group that we are part of, we're familiar with them and they're familiar with us. Even though we're a new body, we're still the same souls that are all the time. So we always have this inter-awareness, inter-acceptance. I know we've all been at places where we just didn't fit in. And no matter how hard we tried, we didn't fit in. And we didn't fit in because there wasn't anything in common. But then we go to some other place and we say, I feel just like I'm at home. I feel like I belong, and you fit in and it's just right. And that's usually because you're with groups of people that you have been with before.
Oh, Tony, could you explain, talk a little bit about a karmic relationship?
Sure. Well, there's all kinds of karma that we create with one another. Sometimes the karma is where we're abusive to one another. Sometimes the karma is very emotional, and we charge each other with all of these emotional, blame each other and for our problems, etc. And sometimes, though, we have karma where we may find someone that we're compatible with, and we build a relationship with them, and we may choose to have this relationship many times over on here and in other worlds, because that relationship, what we find is that this person is the closest we have to someone that reflects the opposite of who we are. So in that kind of relationship, we can have a karma. We can have karma, but we have a karma there where it's healthy karma, or it's a karma that progresses. And so, and understand that karma is a cause and effect. It is we're reaping what we're sowing, whether we're sowing positive things or negative things, but we're mostly also sowing experiences. And if you look at the overall essence, we see that the point of life is to live, and the point of living is to grow and increase and become more. And we're certainly far more than this life. If you could step out of the body, or just conceive that if you've been around forever, because we're all part of the Creator, so we all probably have been around for a real long time, and as such, to have evolved, say you started as a single cell and mature and grew and eventually became capable of handling a human life as a soul, because we're all soul, we're not this life. So here you are, so you must have done an awful lot of living in many, many different scenarios to be able to handle the sophistication of human life. And now we can look and we can see there are many different kinds of, or degrees of sophistication in a human life. But just the simple sophistication of being able to walk and talk and develop intelligence and learn how to do a lot of things, they all come from experiences that we've had from the past and worked and earned and developed and matured our way into that. So let's say that you could get out of the body and you can look at your body, because as soul you're not the body, and you look at this body and you say, oh yeah, this is the life I'm living, and oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and oh, I could probably do a little better here, oh, and that's where I really want to go, and maybe I could learn to do something to get there. And then you think, you place your attention on yourself and you see yourself and you say, well, I've lived all of these other lives. And you start becoming aware, because we remember all that we are. We have certain inclinations. We've matured, we've developed, and our persona, our sense of self, is the result of all of these lives that we've lived. And we can say, well, I haven't really, this life I'm living is different. I can't live this life as the person who has lived all of these other lives, because it doesn't let me live this life the way I need to live it. I would be living it as that, or maybe say like, oh, I was a doctor in the past, and here I am, a laborer, but if you think about that, you can't carry that you're a doctor, because it doesn't allow you to be a laborer. Or maybe you were a mother in another one life, and here you are a father, and so you learn to be you learn how to be a father. And what I'm saying is that we have experienced all of these wonderful things, and they brought us to this moment. And this moment, the life that we're living, is for this life. It's like playing a part. One day you played the part of a mother or a doctor or king, and now you're playing the part of a husband or a priest or whatever. I mean, and it's a totally different thing, and it requires a unique expression of this life and everything that this life offers you. And if you live the life based on being someone else somewhere else, you'll never be able to benefit from the fruits that this experience can give you. But when we leave the body, we are able to be that person again, and we're able to look at what we did with this life and how we lived. So what we learn is this, is that you can't always tell by the appearance of something of what the depth and width of that soul is, and how much they've grown and known. And when you look at your own life, you see, oh, well, my purpose in this life was this and this and this. And you either succeeded, or you may need another life or two at that and come back and do it again in some other time. But what we learn is our lives are a progression of experiences, and that what we think is karma is only based on the limited awareness that we have in this life. Do you follow me? So if we know, for instance, if we know that we're all part of the Creator, then, and we can learn how to focus and become that, we stop being just a human being. We start realizing, for instance, if you were to learn you're immortal forever, and you never had to worry about dying, and you stopped worrying about dying, and you just said, well, I'll live this life as best as I can, because I can keep going, and when this don't work, I'll do something else, or I'll get done with this, and maybe plan on what you might want to be next time, maybe in another world or another space. And that puts you in a different category, so you start living life more responsibly because you have a greater purpose and a greater understanding. Sometimes our concepts of sin are only concepts that other beings have set into motion to maintain control over others. We often do that, like to set up a society. We set up rules and regulations, and every one of these things are designed to deny us the freedom, because if everybody had the same freedoms, we know everybody isn't mature enough or capable enough to be responsible. So what we do is we set up society, and hopefully we have enough freedoms that we can live a life that will allow us, the freedom to express ourselves and become the life that we are. Our concept of karma is just like our concept of sin. If you believe in sin, or you believe in your karma, then many times you have a karma that you don't really have. You see, and maybe a lot of things that we might do, we might have been taught guilt. Like I know people who were like, if you look at a lot of the old church and stuff, they would make sex such a guilty thing, when it's just sex. I mean, we find it between husband and wife and all that. But before they had any of those morals, people just had sex. It wasn't a right or a wrong thing, But as we go and we become more individual, and we realize that our bodies aren't there for just anybody to take, we started setting up rules and things to protect ourselves and to enable us. But when you take these things and you use them to control and manipulate others, like fear and guilt and shame and all of these type of things, then we create an illusionary karma. And when we identify with it, we often bring ourselves back because of the guilt and shame that we feel within ourselves. So reincarnation is just coming back and living another life, and all of our reincarnation is always meant towards the progression. But if our progression is limited by our own guilt and shame and fear, then we often identify with what we call karma. And when you wake up from it and you let go of it, it's not there, and it never had any hold on you other than how much you held it. You see, so often, so that we don't want to have that illusion of guilt and shame and fear. So what we have to do is if we start with the concept that we're soul, and that the purpose of soul is to live life, and the purpose of life is, and the purpose of all creation is for us as this piece of the Creator to go out and enjoy. And if we realize that it's our divine right, it's not a privilege, it's actually our right to enjoy life. It's our right to enjoy all of creation. We don't have to deserve it. It was created for us, and when we recognize ourselves as this piece of the Creator, as something that is of itself able to enjoy, we begin to pursue it and we begin to learn. The key is that we have to learn how to live. By that I mean we have to learn to be the cause of our lives. As long as we depend on things outside of us to tell us what to do and how to do it, then we'll be held responsible by those things. But when you're like, I don't belong to certain religions and paths, so I don't feel obligated to have to live by their rules or their laws, etc. I live by what I believe is right, and I feel good, and I don't worry about it. And when I'm done with this life, I'll go somewhere else, and I'll know where I'm going. And also, there is a wonderful nature about us, and that nature is that our lives are always getting better. They aren't getting worse. Our lives, every single life, we increase it one way or the other. And we increase it by, look, people will say, well, what about someone who is, quote, bad? Well, they're increasing their life towards that path. If their path is darkness, then darkness is the opposite of light. Without the light, there would be no darkness. Without the darkness, you wouldn't have the contrast of the light. So we have this duality, and both of these paths have their way and their purpose. But what we want to do is we want to have the freedom to choose the path and follow that path. If we know that we are part of creation, then we will begin to start increasing our lives and seeing for better lives. But if we live our lives by some other dictation, and we haven't taken the time to go within ourselves and listen to ourselves and feel ourselves, then we won't ever know our spiritual destiny, and we'll just be sucked up in that illusionary karma, and we'll be reincarnating for all the wrong reasons. You see? So I want to mention this other thing now. When we're done with this body, we have this doctrine or belief that there are heavens, and there are. And if we believe that that's where we belong when we're done with this body, that's usually where we go. But if we believe that we're free and that we're soul and that there are other ways or other means of learning, there are other spiritual temples and all of this, and we begin to approach life as being that piece of the Creator where it's our destiny to live more life, our destiny to become, the best we can. And I mean this in this way. If you can stop and think of how amazing creation is itself, and that's only one expression of the Creator, and we are a part of the Creator, and we can imagine that. If we could imagine ourselves just experiencing all the things in this universe, or all the things in an astral universe, or a causal universe, we just imagine ourselves as this, that these are all there waiting for us to experience, and that our purpose as a piece of the Creator is to experience and enjoy and live all the life we can, then we don't have time for all of that other stuff about sin and hell and damnation and everything. We're too busy living. Well, how do you feel about that, Jonathan, what we said?
I think it makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the concept of, as being a piece of the Creator, we really are it?
Yeah.
And our own interpretation. If you stop and you think about it, each one of us, if we took billions and billions and trillions of souls and you let them out, and they're all experiencing all these things, but at different times in different ways. And so I might say, hey, have you done this? No, I've been there. Oh yeah, those beings on that planet there, oh man, I got to go. So I'm going to go there next time. So you go, and you say, oh yeah, well, it wasn't really what he said it was. I guess I didn't understand him. I don't like these people. And you go somewhere else. Now what I'm saying is that we each develop our own unique expression of creation. And that's what it's really about. It's about us being free to be alive, to like, to dislike, to be drawn into this and into that. And what we're doing, we're slowly but surely, number one, we're able to accept creation as it is.
Yeah, and what's important is to be able to really choose your life from you, to have freedom of choice.
Yeah.
That's another real
Yeah, your life is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. Your life is the most important thing to
Free
you.
will.
And the ability to choose and the freedom from the illusions and the pains and the suffering, you know. I've traveled in many universes and many worlds. I'm telling you, I'm no more than, I'm not any greater or lesser than anyone else. I just have done that, and I'm blessed that I'm aware, you know. But I'd like you to have that same, not my awareness, but your own awareness, to realize that you, and that's what's different about this path, is this path really wants you to be free.
And make your own choices.
Yeah.
And you kind of like dig yourself in a little bit, and you immerse yourself with the choice that you make. And then you learn, and then you kind of have to come back.
Sometimes you have to dig yourself out.
You know, you just immerse in your choices.
You do, but it's okay. You know, I mean, you know, I say, I don't give a damn, I'm going to do this. And if I'm wrong, then so what?
And we've been wrong.
And then I was wrong, and I say, oh, well, I'm sorry, you know. But
You learn because you've experienced that aspect of life.
right, and you are, and you're far more alive. And so I want to share this other little thing that I know I've shared it before, but I want to try to maybe clarify it a little bit. All life that exists is made up of spiritual stuff. Soul is not. Soul is that part of the Creator. And the spiritual stuff is the stuff that's all part of the divine creation and everything. It's what creation is made through and with. But we as soul have to be outside of it. And the reason we do is that if we're of something, we're limited by that which we're of. But when we're free and when we realize that we're this piece of creation, and it's our job to explore all of this creation, then we're something else. Now, the life that we live comes from within ourselves. It has nothing to do with power or life force or anything like that. It has to do with our own unique ability to excite life, to suggest life. Comes our ability to act upon life. Life, by its very nature, responds to us. It reflects back exactly what we give it. We give it fear, we give it happiness, we give it adventure, and we start living that way. Life unfolds that way for us, and we become so much more. So, but no, I mean, it's important to know that we have this power within us, and the power that we have is not a power over anyone else. And if we try to, we can get invested and learn how to, you know, levitate and do all this kind of stuff. But that's like, but I guess it's okay. Maybe we all have at different times, but it's a lot of work. You know, and I don't know that levitating makes me any more spiritual or divine. But I think that, you know, the one thing that we have that no one else has is we have our own self. And we have our own unique quality that we're developing. And life outside of us is becoming the effect of the quality that we are.
And we learn, as we make our choices, and life starts responding to us, we also learn to live beneficially versus in a detrimental way. That's really an important concept as well.
So, yeah, right, it is. And what's important about it especially is that the nature of life is to increase. Unless we're increasing, we're stable, but we also become stagnant. Once a statue is made and it's done, there's nothing left. All it can do is deteriorate. And the sculptor, all he can do is go to the next one and create something else. So when we understand that, then we begin to realize that if you look at all of the life in the universe, in this universe, just look at the power of a black hole, or look at the power of a sun, or the power of this earth and what it can do, all it can grow and sustain and all of that. And all of that already exists, and it's already there in spite of us. But it's waiting for us to learn how to not change it, but understand it. Do you see what I'm saying? What we do is we try to change things and make things happen when life is already happening. And what isn't happening is if we aren't living life, then we aren't happening. And we need to happen too. It isn't that we can heal the sick and raise the dead and do all this. It's that we can be kind. We can do what we can do. We can be thoughtful, we can be kind, we can be generous, we can be compassionate, we can be listening and hearing, or we can be just dirty people, I mean, if that's what we like to do, it's okay. It's all about us having the freedom to do and be all of those things that we need to do and be.
And learn from it.
Yeah, and it's our learning, and whatever anyone else does, that's their thing. It's not ours. What do we care? I mean, I don't care who, likes yogurt as long as it isn't me, But, I mean, and I don't care. I don't worry about it, and I don't think about it, because it's not relevant to me. And what we learn to do is to make our own lives relevant and focus on living our own lives. What happens, and always happens, is that life opens up for us. Because we outgrow our present state. By becoming more, life has to give us more. Life is always supporting us, and the more that we are able to receive and become. Now, we can't become more if our attention is focused on supporting the illusions of others or supporting, something outside of ourselves. If we live a life where we realize that everything stands on its own. Let it. You can stand your own. You can stand. You can make your own decisions. My responsibility is to, if I don't like them, fine. It doesn't have to. But my responsibility is certainly not to try to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. You see? And so that's one of the most important things to realize is our own real power is in our ability to initiate our own lives. And whatever place it has, it has. And it's not our lives the whole concept of first place and second place and winners and losers are all traps to trick us into thinking that they're important. It doesn't matter who wins or loses because there is no greater or lesser. There is not one being here who is the greater part of the Creator than any other. And it's impossible. It's just absolutely impossible. And because I have awareness of this, the only value of this awareness that I have is maybe in that I'm able to share it and help others increase. But even if I share it, if you don't use it, then it doesn't mean anything other than I shared it and I get off sharing it. I like it because I get to move into higher states of awareness and knowledge and see things and do things. I get to listen to you in the inner and I get to feel you. So I get to tell you what I think you are telling me you want to hear, or what's next there for you, But I've had this long life and I'm this person that does that, but it doesn't make me greater or lesser. My life is still dependent upon me to stand on my own, carry my own, do my own. I don't get a free pass. I'm just as responsible for my life as everyone else is. But that's okay. I don't need that. Because when you realize that you're this part of the Creator, you're already there. And you're just learning what that means. And you're learning it. And it's no longer about deserving God's love or anything like that, because you're it. The very fact that you exist as this. And what makes the Creator's love real is that you live it. And as you live it and give it of yourself, that's the only way you can really know that truth, or really know that love, or really know that harmony, is how we learn to give it of ourselves. So you have to know that it's inside of you, and you do that by learning your soul, by meditating, going within, contemplating on the goodness of you. And don't be ashamed or afraid to think that you're a wonderful being, because you are. And if you can't accept that you're wonderful, how are you going to accept all of the wonderful aspects of creation that are waiting there? You see? And that's one thing we're taught to be humble and all that. Well, there's nothing more humble than the truth. Nothing.
Yeah, it's true.
And if all of us are a piece of the Creator, whatever the Creator is, so are we. We have that same potential, that same divine essence, and our responsibility is to live it as ourselves, and define it and stand on our own, and let everyone else stand on their own. And if they can't, well, they'll fall and get up, and eventually the pain's great enough that they're willing to stand on their own and carry their own way.
I think it's very dignified too to allow someone to stand on their own.
It is, yeah. We let other people, let them fall. You can be there and you can give them comfort and everything, and maybe even help them up some, but we can't live their life. We have to allow them the freedom to learn how to live their lives as they are, you know. But that's what's wonderful. How can I know you if I'm not even able to accept the wonder of you? You know, and if I think that I'm more of a God than a part of the Creator than you, then how am I ever going to be able to appreciate another part of the Creator? I'm just going to say I'm the only one. I'll be like cheese, stand alone. You know, I like that. That's cool. I just made that up. No, I didn't. Old MacDonald made that up. But anyway, but you get what I'm saying. Any questions on that?
There are a lot of people that are really, really stuck on guilt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some guilt
Almost
is there's different.
sustains them.
Yeah, there's different types of guilt,
But if you have
or different
guilt
sources
for
of
things,
guilt, I should say. Different
well,
sources.
Yeah, but if you have guilt,
There are
go ahead.
institutions that, well, okay.
Go
yeah,
ahead.
Yeah.
I guess you're the source of all guilt, but there's different
Well,
dimensions or
Also,
levels.
parents tend to raise their children.
right, because
That's right.
right. So,
And you better be. And Christmas is coming up, so
So,
well, so one of the things about guilt is all right. Let's look at this. Let's say that you can believe that you're this part of the Creator,
so
And
if
as
you can do that,
right? And then you can say, well, why would I be guilty? You know, I mean, it's like, you know, when they talk about, let's say that all of creation is like this body, and this hand represents all the bad people on earth, right? Now, everything is a part of the Creator. So I have to create as the Creator. I create this amazing fire. And I said, okay, you're such a bad hand. I'm going to put you in fire. And I have to sit there and suffer myself for whatever, and then for eternity with my hand on fire burning. Does that make like I would do? If I wouldn't do that, and I'm not that aware or that amazing, you know, and it's like my children, I would never put my children and punish them and ruin their lives forever just because they did what I didn't like. You know, and if I was a God, why would I need you to worship me? That's kind of crazy. I want you to live life, and that would be wonderful. And like my children, I don't want my children to just love me and worship me. I want them to play and have fun. I want them to take the things I have to share with them, and I want them to find joy and graciousness and goodness. If we have guilt, it means that that our attention is towards being responsible for something we may not really be responsible for. You know,
not the ability to be responsible for.
And the other thing is that when we realize ourselves as part of the Creator, we let go of the guilt. And if something needs to be solved or resolved, we find a way. And we resolve it. Now we're no longer, but you know, like people lay out these rules. From their point of view, they might be right, but it may not fit you. It's like people who are gay. I mean, gay people have been around since Adam and Steve, you know. Or what? But probably been around for a long time. Animals, homosexuality is in animals and everything else. They don't seem to live in shame or be afraid. But it's also a part of the way that the psyche is designed. As beings, we're both male and female. The male psyche has a little bit more hormones, so he's more predominantly male, as it is with a woman. But we all contain that other piece of ourselves that's like that. But homosexuality is just an attraction to someone of the same sex. It has nothing to do with the quality of that individual. That individual's quality depends upon the life they live. Remember, if it's true, which I know it's true, that there's not one person greater or lesser than any other person, so their sexual orientation has nothing to do with, because what they are is this piece of the Creator. They're living that life, that experience. I'm living this life, this experience. And we're all living our own life, our own experience, whatever it is. You see? And every religion has some point of dislike of every other religion. And there's nobody in this world that's going to be perfect for everybody, you know. And I don't care, you know, even when Jesus was here and all of these great prophets, everybody found stuff wrong with them. You know, or they all would be following them. They would have been the perfect one. So what we have to know is this. Whatever you have to know yourself as this piece of the divine. And you have to say, this piece of the divine I'm soul. Soul is this piece of, and within me is this inspiration, this creative faculty. The Creator itself lies within me. And what's wonderful about that is along the way, we actually learn to see the Creator in the things that we do. And the way that we do that is we see the perfection of something. For instance, you can see a leaf that has a piece missing. And that's a perfect example of a leaf with a piece missing. How much more perfect can you get? You know, you can see someone with polio. There's a perfect example of someone with polio. And just think of what's that life that they're going to live. What are they going to accomplish? What are they going to, you know, overcome? How strong will they become in character and as a person? You know, and how will they learn they still have to live a regular life, eat, sleep, drink, have children, marry, all that stuff, like everybody else. So we're all the same. We just have these different, you know, costumes that we're wearing. And we're different people and different things, and that's good. That's what makes us all unique. But more importantly, we are the Creator being that. And if you see someone who is, say, gay, you have to know there's the Creator being gay, because it is. You see? And it has nothing to do with, and if he or she finds a partner and they love each other and they have a great life, that's terrific. And you're going to find they're going to be like a lot of them are like everybody else. After a while, they want somebody new. So that's all part of it too. It's just that they're having a relationship with the same sex, but they're still doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. You know, so it has nothing to, so none of these things have any value other than to the individual and how they're, like we don't worry about how, you know, everyone else in Missoula's doing. I don't know what they're doing and I don't want to know. You know, probably. You know.
Bringing living beneficially. And as we make our choices, we start learning more about living beneficially.
Yeah. Life is either works for us or it doesn't. It doesn't work against us unless we identify with it and choose to follow it. So we look at life. Life doesn't have to be right or wrong. Life, we can look and say, this is beneficial, or it's detrimental, or just isn't anything. And so, and we learned that if we take the things that are beneficial to us, then we're living the life we want to live.
We're in harmony.
Yeah. And we find this, one of the things we've talked about before is that love is the feeling we get when we're in harmony, no matter what it is or where it is. You know, and what's wonderful about that is that when we go within or we feel something, remember we're all unique and we're all different. We all have a different take on things. So we all find some harmonies unique to us and wonderful. And others may not find it so harmonious. But we feel good. And a good feeling that we have says, yeah, this is good. Nothing wrong with this. It's not about right or wrong or good or bad. It's about beneficial. It's about harmony. What if it's beneficial to have a beer? You know, some people, I don't drink, but I choose not to drink. But I did drink, and when I drank, I'd like that second or third beer because I was getting high and I'm feeling good. I want to maintain it. I just would the next day be sick for a couple of days, so it just didn't work for me. But I can understand that was good. I liked it, you know. So what if a person drinks all their life? So what? It's their lives, and we're eternal forever. And if you want to spend a couple of lives as a drunk and a bum and sleep in the gutter, so what? Do it. You have a right to do it. We don't have a right to dictate or judge. What we do is we have to respect it. If I'm going to say that I'm a piece of the Creator, and you're a piece of Creator, and you, I have to treat you like that. I have to respect that in you, but I also have to respect the dignity of you making your own decisions, whatever they are. You see, and when we learn to do that, people get along a lot better. The jails wouldn't be anywhere near as filled. People wouldn't be stealing and lying and cheating because we would be kind and generous and loving, or we would just be assholes if that's what we want to be. We have a right to that. That might be beneficial because I'm going to tell you this. If you don't know the dark, you can't know the light. And the guy that's mean and nasty over there on the other side of the fence, that's his life, and he's happy with it because he chooses to be it. And if he blames everybody and still does stupid things, well, that's his choice. One day, somewhere along the way, this life or another, it's going to learn that, well, that's really not working too good for me.
Not too beneficial.
I can't blame everybody, you know. It's kind of, doing that's kind of put me here, and I'm not happy here.
So you start choosing to live in a different way.
And no matter how dark they get, you know, that's their choice for that experience. What we understand is this. Both sides can be wrong. You know, the light is wrong for the dark, and the dark is wrong for the light, and they both think they're right, and so they're both conflicting. You see, but they just are what they are. When you rise above and you look down, if you were to visit another world, and you were to watch these beings on this world, and they weren't people, but they were beings, and they were doing something, and they were living, and they would stop, and they would make signals to one another, and then they would run over here, and then they'd sit, and then they'd get up, and they'd run over there, make a signal, then they'd sit, and we'd say, well, I have no idea what that means or what that's about. Maybe one group of these people said, look at that guy sitting. If he wasn't sitting, he'd be busy doing something, so he'd be saying he's wrong. We would just be looking at it. We wouldn't know what any of it meant. So right or wrong or good or bad are often personal concepts, and they're opposites of what other people choose to believe is true. You see? But they aren't necessarily right or wrong. Each person's doing their own thing. Oftentimes, this person is wrong because you said so. And you're the only one that makes that person wrong. But that person may just be doing their thing and have nothing to do with right or wrong. They're just doing their thing. And you say, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. We don't, you know. So now we know there's certain things that are like, are aberrated. So it's aberration when we kill, take the life of another. It's an aberration when we harm another, violate the dignity or space of another. Like when people who molest or rape or do these types of things. So these aberrations exist, and a lot of them exist because the society that we live in allows them to exist because they create an atmosphere for these things to grow. Well, and I mean it like this, like sometimes it's a parental thing. Sometimes a person just is, mothers and fathers treat their kids bad, they don't get love, etc. And they go through this life and they don't know how to deal with it. Well, I want you to know that in karma, that these people have a karma, and the people who are a part of their karma are a part of their karma. Everybody that goes to war and dies in the war is karmically involved in that war. And it happens over and over, generation to generation. And if we look back, there are wars and wars and wars, death, and there's been the hero, there's been the survivors, and there's the killers, and and they all come back and take each other's place. And it goes on for as long as, till people stop saying, wait a minute. I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm not going to be a part of that war. And enough people come back and they change it, then we make a transition into a next state, a higher state of consciousness. We live in a state where wars exist because we think that's the solution. you see, and because people don't stand up and say no. If GMOs are on the market and we know that they're GMOs and we don't buy them, then they go out of business. If you have wars and nobody shows up, people refuse to fight. One of the wonderful things about being this path and the possibilities of it is that when enough people realize their soul, they'll be too busy living their own life of dignity and divine truth, and they won't have time. And when that happens, those who want to be in charge will realize there's nobody that will give them the authority. So then they'll stop wanting to be in charge and they'll want to be part of what's going on. So we have the power. The power lies within us and within our own divine nature, which is, and to be not be afraid to be true to ourselves. And that's why we're writing this, is because in putting this together is to perpetuate and increase the awareness and understanding of each person being that piece of the Creator. And when they, responsibility means ability to respond. When we lay that foundation and they develop that ability to respond, then we'll have a more, not just peace, but we're not just looking for peace, we're looking for soul to get out of here, get out of the rut that it's in, and to work more towards a golden age so the life of divinity or the divine self can express and grow.